the vlog that I'm going to be shooting for this weekend, it's in my YouTube under production. It's the only one under it. It's going to be, I think, how to communicate with clients. So I'm shooting it literally right now. So I'm going to commit to trying to get everything done by like Wednesday or Thursday at the latest. So I'm going to shoot as much content as I can before Nico. The way I'm going to do it is I have it in my critical tasks. So the vlog for this week is going to be effective communication skills for real estate agents. A lot of agents struggle on connecting with clients, so this week we're going to unlock a couple secrets in powerful communication. We're going to discuss why communication skills are critical for real estate agents, how communication impacts client trust, deal closures, and overall reputation. You don't have to write any of this down. I'm actually filming the vlog right now. That's why I'm reading this, is this is actually going to be part of the vlog. He's going to trim out all this part maybe, or he's going to leave it in, who knows. Yeah, so like, when it comes to communication with clients, I think there's a lot of misunderstandings that happen. There's, failure to convey value. There's expectations that go mismanaged because you're not effectively communicating with clients. It's happened to me, right? I've been too busy to tell clients what I'm doing, so they assume I'm doing nothing and things go sideways. So I'm always trying to level up my communication skills. I'll profile a couple ways that I'm doing that right now, and then I'll discuss ways that I think we've effectively communicated in the past. For training this week, Alex is actually coming into the office. She spent 2 full days with the REC team going over how they manage their client concierge service, how they keep their database ultra tight, how they make sure their clients understand the value props that they have. We do the Prime Mastermind series, we have the Insiders newsletter, we have the Farms newsletter, the Investor Report. I'm going to go over all that in depth and how the team can make sure that they're offering all of that to people who are part of the Prime Nation. And anybody watching the vlog, if you're curious about any of that, just drop it in the comments and I'll make sure the team gets back to you ASAP. The Sell It Like Sirhan piece of content they wanted me to shoot on 496 Waterloo. I would like to try and bang that out today. So maybe put the link to that, whatever I need to do for it, in my calendar today. If you want to put it in Asana task with the details and then just link it in my calendar. I think all that Nico needs from me is kind of a story time, talking head clip. So I'll shoot that when I'm in the office and talk about the consultation. I'll talk about the pre-launch, the launch, and then the result of that sale.
Okay, got it. I have, I think, one more. The market update video, so we can send the newsletter for this month.
Well, that works out well because I need to look at my calendar to tell you when I can do that. Today is not an option. Tomorrow is an option. You can put that in my calendar tomorrow at 1 o'clock in the office. I would like a link for the vlog this week. I thought an interesting conversation, because I really want to be topical around the vlog.
Yep.
So this week's, I actually wrote it down. Let me pull it up. Is effective communication skills for real estate agents. I think going over and showing a bit behind the scenes that, every agent struggles with communication with clients, right? If they really think about it, most misunderstandings, failure to convey value and managing expectations comes from lack of understanding on how to communicate with clients. So you're on the vlog right now. I'm
on it right now?
Yeah, I just pressed record as we're talking right now. Not the personal stuff, just this portion. What I want to ask you is, and I almost wish I didn't tell you that so you wouldn't think you're on camera. What I want to do today is, I think what we did with Alex investing in her time at the REC is going to pay dividends, right? Her shadowing Tyler and how he operates and calling clients and conveying value and communicating with past clients, current clients, and people who have no idea who they are, like really cold leads, is going to be great for the other agents to see. And then doing some live calls with her actually leading the way on the calls, me doing some calls, maybe you. I think we don't have to necessarily get everybody else involved. We'll just go a long way in making them feel more comfortable in touching the database. In your experience though, I just want a couple things that are top of mind for you when it comes to effective communication with clients. What are the top things that come to mind if you were going to share with a brand new agent?
So I'll kind of umbrella it so it's not niche down to sellers or buyers or whatever, right? I think effective communication comes down to just having an idea of, we understand what the goal is. So the goal is to sell a property, right? Even if we don't have an update for them, an update is, hey, here's my plan to get this done. All they want to know is that you've got the reins. That's why they're hiring you. It's kind of like when you hire a plumber. They want to know that they're hiring somebody who knows what they're doing and can effectively get the job done, right? So that's, I think, is the core of it, is what is your game plan, regardless of what the goal is. Buy or sell it. Buy a property, sell a property, right? That's how I think about it.
Yeah, and then
where I think people get hung up, sorry to cut you off.
No, say that again.
Where I think people get hung up, though, is they get in their head and they think, oh, I don't have an update, so I'm just not going to say anything. And then one day becomes 3 weeks in the blink of an eye, and I'm super guilty of it. Like I have those feelings as well from time to time. So I think it's kind of regulating yourself in that moment and saying, you know what, like, they need to hear from me regardless, so let's just talk to them.
Like, what tools do you use to help remind you of when and how to get back to people? Because obviously, like, working with a high volume of leads and clients, it's tough to keep it organized sometimes, right?
It is for sure. So CRMs and like, I find technology, regardless if you're using a CRM or if you're using Excel, doesn't matter. Having some sort of accountability software is key, because if you got 10 tasks today and 2 of them are seller updates, well, to clear those tasks, you got to get through your seller updates or your buyer updates or whatever the case may be. So having some sort of list or spreadsheet or CRM that can help you with that is critical. Like we use Follow-Boss, but I use a number of other softwares as well, just to give myself a reminder, whether it's the reminders app in your phone or anything, but something that kind of pushes you to get it done, or else it'll slip through the cracks very easily.
Yeah, I know Sirhan uses a whole human being to manage his CRM. Obviously, he has quite a few transactions, so that makes sense. My methodology is pretty simple. When it comes to like managing who I need to follow up with, I have 3 tools I use. One would be obviously my CRM, which is absolutely critical. I think somebody told me once, and this is absolutely true, you can probably do more than 90% of people if you commit to 4 hours of focused work a day, 1 hour to 2 hours in your CRM, meaning going through your new leads, your hot prospects, your nurtures, and your current clients. If you go through that on a regular basis, 20 minutes for each of those lists, you're going to be way further ahead than most people. I do think, for myself anyways, I don't know if it's the same for you, my project management software, I use Asana. I keep a list of critical things that are like, the house is burning down, these need to get done today. A separate list of follow-ups, people that I know I have open loops with that are also critical, but are different from tasks. And then I keep a paper notebook so I can scribe stuff during the day. I only really touch my project management software twice a day. I do 15 minutes in the morning to kind of just organize it and kind of clean it up and then put those things on my calendar. And then at the end of the day, I reorganize it as well. Do you use any similar methodology?
So I use, I don't know if it's simpler, but it's more, in my opinion, it's more efficient for me, but I use Trello and I use Zapier to push notifications to my calendar, to my my CRM and everything, so that it's multiple places at once. So regardless of what software I'm in, Zapier is pushing out certain tasks to me that need to get focused on.
That's super.
Because if I don't, just in case I forget to check it or things get busy, I get a push notification just to be on the safe side.
Yeah, and I think you basically have a whole bunch of technology tools acting like mini assistants, just saying, hey Kyle, can you get to this? Hey Kyle, can you get to this? And then you have human beings like me, Shannon, Laura, are also doing that in different capacities too, right?
Well, thank God for that, I tell you that. My goodness.
It takes a village. Well, you're getting married soon, so you're definitely going to need to make sure that you're on top of your communication skills. And in terms of communication with your spouse, when it comes to somebody that is working at a high level, you obviously have the property management company. You work on a ton of new development with me, with investors. You work super hard in the real estate business. And you have a great relationship with your soon-to-be wife. How do you manage your relationship with her so that she has, the ability to... Sorry, let me rephrase that. So how do you manage expectations around, So how do you manage communication with your spouse? Like, so that you guys are on the same page with, you know, your ambitions and growing your relationship and all those things?
Yeah, so that's a good question. Early on in our relationship, communication was huge. Like, we were rocky when I first started a corporate job because it was very high demand, long hours, and it was tricky when we were first starting out. And then we really doubled down on communication very early on, and it's the cornerstone of our relationship. Like, it literally is the fundamental aspect of how we, in my opinion, are successful in our relationship, because we are super communicative. Every single day, like, we have a hard stop at 8:30. Sometimes it gets pushed to 9, but like it's no devices after that certain period of time, so that it's just quality time, communication, talking about what we did that day, what we're doing this week, what we have to do, and we have both access to calendars, so she can see what I'm doing, I can see what she's up to. We find that like that's the key to success, and it's super, like, sometimes obviously every relationship goes through, you know, rocky times, but like that gets us through it every single time. So we are high priority communication relationship, I would say.
I love that. I think that's ultra key. Well, I'm 4 minutes away from the office. I know you're there right now. We're going to do this meeting with Alex to go over what she learned with the REC team, so I'm pumped for that. I'll see you in a minute.
All right, brother.
I'll get back.
See you.
Crucial to succeed today. He said, we live in this universal world where everything is available to everybody. Knowledge is literally infinite, and it exists for everybody. So people learn to navigate this universe through brands. If the brand doesn't tell a cohesive, succinct story at every point of contact with the customer, then it doesn't accomplish its objective. In other words, remember that everything you create is another opportunity to solidify your message and increase your business just by being consistent. Consistency is your mantra as you're entering this phase of brand building. Consistency might not sound sexy. It's not the kind of word you'll want to run out and get tattooed on your arm. But consistency is the stuff of life when it comes to building a brand. Not everything about building a thriving business is glamorous and exciting, but what is exciting is the huge increase in business and the massive amounts of money that'll start raining down if you just stay consistent. Perfectionism is your enemy. Good is your friend. Please understand, this is not the area where you want things to be perfect. Here's one of my early Instagram posts. 4:31 a.m. I woke up this morning with so much on my mind. We've started production on #SellItLikeSirhands, which is insane. Work is crazy busy. I really had to pee, but I was mostly thinking about why I wake up so early. My gut instinct is always to go back to sleep. 1 more hour, 2 more hours, hell, I'm my own to your productivity. Productivity hacks. Character 3, athlete, inspiration and motivation. Sydney walks the walk and talks the talk. Mic'd up personal training sessions, Sydney is client. Clips of her own sessions with her coaches. Progress tracking against her own goals. For example, train for high rocks with Sydney. Step 3, fill in your grid. Content calendar and planning process. Sydney's been through the list of free and paid social media planning apps, but she's found the best way to keep herself on track is to keep it simple. She uses a spreadsheet or a good old-fashioned pen to paper planner. 2, but
Elena made the vlog, Rob made the vlog, Kyle made the vlog. It feels like we got the whole family here. That's awesome. So I told you guys today's session is going to be geared around the fact that Alex went and spent 2 days with the REC team. I'll give a little bit of context to those that are watching that have no idea who the REC team is. So a good friend of mine called me 2013 or 2014, and I didn't know him at the time, and offered me the opportunity to go speak with Scott McGilvery in Toronto. And I thought it was a straight up pitch to pay for something, for like a booth or something. He just said, we need somebody who's good with investment properties to come down to Toronto and represent London. And I initially said I wasn't interested, but hey, send me the details, I'll look at it with Shannon. Looked at it with Shannon. Scott McGilvery was involved. It wasn't a pay-to-play thing. They had actually only had one agent per market that they would basically bring in. They bring in off-market properties. They talk about why is it a good place to invest in. And it was like a farmer's market for real estate. So Shannon's like, Scott's pretty legit. Like, maybe just go check it out and see what it is. So I went to the first Keyspire Summit, and I was by myself with a bunch of off-market properties, walked in, and it was mayhem. It was at the basement of the Royal York. There was probably 200 people there. I walked in, the first thing I saw was a crowd of people around a guy from Windsor, Mike Seal, who's louder than life, who was selling properties for 50, 60 grand a pop, and these people were clamoring to buy them. Then I turned around, saw a guy from Kitchener who was a very well-known agent, and I was like, why is this guy here? Like, he doesn't need any additional business. And then I saw Greybrook Realty Partners were there, who were like top 1 to 2 land developers in North America. And I kept going through all the different service providers, and I just asked them, like, why are you guys here? Like, you do good business. And they said it's for the network more than it is the actual investors. So it was the education that they had being in a room with top tier killers like Greybrook Realty Partners, the partners from BDO, Miller Thompson. These are lawyers, land developers, accountants, insurance providers, investors, and real estate agents and mortgage providers. So we committed to, I came back from that summit, I think we had 40, 50 leads because I didn't know how to do intake. And building out what we now have as the investment arm at Prime, and Keyspire being a part of that for sure. And it's grown into the summit we're doing this September is going to be approximately 5,000 people. It's the biggest one they've ever done. Summits typically range at like 300 to 500 people. The last one I think was 500 people. And it's a 3-day intensive education. So updates on what's happening in the investment world, investors talking about strategies that are working. They talk about technology in real estate. They bring in speakers and panelists, and they do a deep dive for real estate investors. One of the biggest, most valuable things for me is still the service providers. Every time I go, I collaborate with Mike Seal, I collaborate with Mike Heddle, I collaborate with Jazz Takar and his team. And it's like we all fly high-performing jets into different places. We're competitors by nature. I get no profit from the business that they do, other than I do from the standpoint that they show me things that they're doing to their jets and their rocket ships that we bring back to Prime and we bolt onto our system. And I do the exact same thing to them. Jazz called me in 2018 and asked about starting a YouTube channel. He's like, it doesn't even use a laptop. And I went down there with one of our creatives at the time, sat down, showed him exactly how to do it, and he ran with it. And they've created what they've created, right? And that's the collaboration we've had with these guys since the inception. I just want to have a super casual conversation. Doesn't feel like it because I'm like setting you up with tons of pressure around like walking us through the actual experience that you had with Tyler. So why don't you just start from what was your expectation and then what was it like when you actually got there?
I didn't really have any expectation going in. I just knew I was like listening and like shadowing them.
Sure.
So kind of listening into like how they go about calling people is literally, they just kind of just check in on them. It's not, like they try to set the appointment up of like their week, so like their real estate action plan. So they just give them a casual call, like no pressure, nothing. They kind of check in on them to see if they have like, if the emails are coming through, if they've been to like their events or whatever. And then they kind of set up like an appointment. They ask them like, oh, like, are you free for 20, 30-minute appointment to deep dive into your like investment accounts or portfolio or whatever. And then they set up an appointment through like a calendar and stuff.
The first part is booking the appointments. And I want to train you all on this because it's the most important piece. When you get a lead, you're not doing the appointment then and there. That's why most people don't call leads, because they think they need to do the full qualification appointment there. You're just qualifying the appointment. The second piece, I'm going to get you pull that list and we're going to rip through the questions that they ask on the qualification appointment. I want to make this dummy proof for you So that was fun. You got to see a little bit of behind the scenes training at Prime. We do that every Tuesday as a collective. So we typically dig into a topic and then we do some live calls and role play. Didn't have time to do the live calls or role play today because we had such an in-depth discussion about how to communicate with clients, both past clients and future clients. And I think the biggest takeaway was don't overcomplicate the communication. I think sometimes people get paralysis by analysis, thinking they have to be completely prepared to answer every question as if they are an encyclopedia, so they don't even make a call because they're scared of not knowing the answer, or they're scared of looking stupid. And the biggest takeaway I saw from the trainings that my team did with the REC team and the rest of the crew was being human typically develops a relationship, and then in the relationship you earn the opportunity for the communication. So I'm definitely going to take that with me today as I'm having conversations with clients and people, and excited about communicating with people. Yeah, I definitely recorded an entire podcast and then remembered that I forgot to hit the record button before. So thankfully, you just reminded me to do that now. Today, I actually have Industrial Real Estate's secret weapon, Mr. Chad Griffiths, in studio, and we are talking about how we have mutual connections and friends who have been on this podcast. Taylor Hack, a mutual friend. Chad just got to tour a $3 million home with him, but Chad's a commercial broker, so he got to hang out with the Rezzies, talked a little bit about our love for F1. But in today's episode, we're going to really dig into how Chad became a seasoned expert in industrial real estate with over 1,000 deals completed since 2005. He's a partner at a local firm, a co-owner of 150,000 square feet of industrial property, and he's a host of the Industrial Real Estate Show. He's a podcaster, he's an executor, he's a salesperson, he's a creator, he's a dad just like me. I think I'm excited to learn a lot from you, Chad.
When I've said this to people as well, is never put anything in writing that you wouldn't want to have read in court. Well, never say something in a deal that you wouldn't want to have repeated in court. So exactly to your point, we're not lawyers. The last thing I want to do is hold myself out as a lawyer and make a claim that perhaps lands me in court. Because I think in real estate, where we're in a commission-based industry, the only thing worse than working for free is working for free and getting sued. And even if you can successfully defend yourself and maybe you have insurance that covers it, the stress and the anxiety and everything that comes with it is never worth the cost. And in 20 years, I've never once been sued. And that to me is indicative of the fact that I never want to hold myself out as an architect. I never want to say, I don't even want to claim what power is. And I've studied power a lot over the last year. I still wouldn't say to a tenant that power here is 200 amp, 3-phase, 480 volt. I still won't even say that. I still want to have an outside electrician or the landlord or somebody confirm that. Because if I say that, and using power as just a loose example, sometimes the panel can say something. They might say it's a 200 amp panel, but there's scenarios where it might be a 200 amp panel, but a lazy electrician just repurposed an old panel and it's really only a 100 amp service in there. It's rare, but that can still happen. And why would I want to expose myself to that risk where there's professionals that this is what they do for a living? So I will never make claims on anything. And I think that's where being an effective hub is important. Is all I want to do is I want to know what questions to ask, because if I don't know what questions to ask, that's when I've got a blind spot. That's when I can miss something. My interest in knowing as much as I can about these is just to know that these are issues. I don't want to solve any of these issues. I don't want to solve a legal clause. I don't want to misinterpret something that's in an insurance provision, because I'm not an expert in any of those. So I think my job and what makes a broker effective is being able to piece all this together, put all the pieces of the puzzle together to get a deal done. But I'm not making any of these pieces. I'm just the guy overlooking it, saying, okay, if we put all these here together, but I need experts to give me the actual pieces.
Yeah, I literally did a team training on Tuesday. I wish you were there to actually say that, because I told them, like, know your place. We're not the ones that are supposed to be drafting plans for how they're going to build this office out, because we don't know. We're not architects, right? But we know really good architects. People pay us for our database, and for me to be able to pick up the phone and get them a great designer and get them a great electrician and get them great contractors and environmental auditors and the right team. I think that's where some agents do get it wrong, because they're so excited about getting the deal done. They get commission breath. They say or do anything, and then they also end up in court. I sat on professional standards for 5 years, and I saw most complaints came from misrepresentation of fact, either in writing or that were said, just like you said, and they ended up in court. One thing I do have a question for you. Actually, I'm going to feature you on the vlog. So I'm filming this on the back end. That is Chad Griffiths. We're on the Prime People podcast. And this vlog is all around how agents make mistakes or how they can effectively communicate with their clients better. So I wanted to ask you that question. What do you think agents do right? And what do you think agents do wrong when it comes to communicating with clients?
Is a great question. And I think what comes to mind right away is that inexperienced or new agents think that they need to have an answer for everything. And they try to come up with an answer. And sometimes it might just be a guess. Sometimes it might be something that they heard. So it could be a market statistic, like who just moved in across the street from here, and this is applicable for residential, applicable to commercial, anything. And they just take a guess, like, oh, I think it was that machine shop that just moved in there. So instead of saying, oh, it's a good question, let me find out and I'll get you an answer back, they try to answer every question. And I think that's just a tendency of what a lot of inexperienced or new agents do, when you don't need to have every answer. I think it's great the more answers that you have. If you happen to anticipate those questions and said, okay, this, I know that this company is sensitive to what other businesses are in the area. Maybe they're a machine shop. They don't want to have a competitor right across the street. So you went and did a little bit of research in advance. I think that's great value add that you bring as a broker. But in the absence of having that, if you're just placed in a position where you don't know the answer, the best thing you can do is say, great question. Let me confirm that for you and I'll get back to you, and then actually do it. Because that's the other part too, is there's a lot of lip service that gets paid and then there's not a lot of follow-up. So that does take time. Whatever the question is, it's going to take time to get the correct answer. But following up with that in a nutshell, like that's a very simple explanation on like good versus poor agent. Is the poor agent tries to answer every question and perhaps guesses and hopefully they get it right. But again, you're putting yourself in a position where you're open for risk. So I think to some extent, as agents, we need to be in the risk management business ourselves. And I never want to be saying something that's incorrect. I just that to me is a non-starter. Say, I'll get that answer for you, figure out what the answer is and communicate it. And people understand that. I've bought and sold lots of things myself as a principal, and I don't expect people to have the answers. But if I ask a question, I expect to get the answer. So that's like a real quick, obvious one.
Yeah, that's a great breakdown. Actually, as I'm thinking of that pragmatically too, you're also losing the opportunity to learn, because when somebody asks me a question, I may think I know the answer because I've had the question before and maybe I sourced it. Quite often, I'll even tell them like, well, in this one instance, this happened, but the laws maybe have changed. I don't know, right? Like we change conservation laws all the time up in my territory. The lake levels are always going up and down, and we do a lot of lakefront real estate. And that's something that like I'll never answer a question on until I talk to the conservation authority, because they may be working on a new plan that I didn't know about. And it gives me the opportunity to get new information and then also show my client what it's like to work with me. You touched on something else there that a lot of agents get wrong. When I have a new lead come in, I'm typically not doing the actual full qualification appointment. I'm qualifying them in like 5 minutes. I'm showing them what it's like to work with me. The real magic is the follow-up. Like if I tell them I'm going to call you back and I'll have a couple properties for you off market for us to discuss, and maybe a longer 15-20 minute meeting where we can ascertain where are they at financially, what's their plan, are they building a portfolio, are they working with an agent, are they open to an exclusive mandate. Then if I don't follow up with them, I'm just another agent, because most agents don't ever follow up. But if I follow up with them, I have 3 properties that are off market that are exactly what they told me they had in the first meeting. I'm ready to follow up on everything I said in that first 5-minute conversation. My chances of developing a client relationship are like 90+%, because you know this. How many agents in the industry actually follow up on promises they make clients? I don't think it's very many.
I think it's very low. It reminds me of a real estate cliche, and we probably all have heard a variation of this or of some sort, but fortune's in the follow-up. And I think that really is true, because exactly as you said, there's a lot of people that will say that they'll do it, but either they're not great at organizing information, or they don't have a good CRM, or whatever the excuse is, they don't get to it. But the fortune is in the follow-up. So yeah, perfect example. I completely agree with what you said there.
On that note, I'd be curious just to pick your brain. Like when you have an active, do you do a lot of listings, like managing industrial listings?
A ton.
How many listings do you carry like at any one time approximately?
So I've got a team. So I've got a partner, and then we've got two junior associates, and then a team coordinator. So it'll sound like a big number, but we're a pretty sophisticated team. At any given time, we have about 80 listings. So it's a lot of data, but we've got a very sound structure in place that's taken a lot of time to build. So we just added our team coordinator 6 months ago. So it's been a system that's taken a long time to build. But yeah, at any given time, about 80 listings.
And then that team coordinator, I guess, what's their role within the organization?
Working just for our team, and it's managing all of our back end paperwork and files and conveyancing and keeping everything organized. So that's basically her job, is just making sure
hitting the dates, right? Making sure that everybody has what they need to have so the team can focus on the relationships. The other question I had for you was, when you're managing 80 listings and 80 clients that want, like, they're hiring you just so they can focus on running their businesses, how do you keep them updated on their properties on a regular basis so you have raving fans as clients that feel like you're on it?
Yeah, it's funny you say this, because I've selling a car, and I hired a guy to market it for me, and it kind of a new service for an idea. And I'll get to your question in a second here, but I think this ties into it quite naturally. So it's very similar. He's an agent, and he goes and sells cars, and I just thought, let's let him handle all that stuff. He's going to have contacts and systems, same thing that we would say at a different level. He hasn't communicated with me, and I start asking questions like, is he actually marketing this? Like, is there nobody interested in this? And I say to myself, as I'm asking those questions, are other people saying that about my services? And I think you hit the nail on the head. How do you get raving fans? And ideally, you need to be communicating with clients regularly. I try to call clients as often as I can, because even if he had just called me and said, "Hey, no activity, but here's what I'm doing right now," then at least, then I'm not asking these questions. I'm not saying, is he actually doing anything, or is he just working on other things that are perhaps more exciting to him? But if he called and just said, Here's the update," all of a sudden I stop asking those questions. So I think communication is just first and foremost what you need to be doing. Call clients. It's a lost art. We seem, I think you and I are probably similar ages, but it's younger agents seem to have lost the appetite to call, and they think that they can just send a DM, or they can send a text, or they can send an email. And don't underestimate the power of a phone call. Calling someone and having a 10-minute conversation with them, and just giving a high level update, or perhaps going into a specific thing, or even giving a market point, just saying, "Hey, no activity, but there's a property that's sold in your neighborhood. I just thought I'd share that with you real quick." Power of phone call is so important. And then I'd also say, we send out regular reports as well. So it'll be a monthly report where our team coordinator compiles all the information. So inbound calls, if we had any outbound calls that converted into interest, if we had any tours, any potential offers that came in, we document everything. So our CRM has become very sophisticated, where we can track all of it to each individual property and put out a report pretty easily. So we try to do that once a month, unless there's nothing to report on, then that's a phone call. But that, first and foremost, I'd say phone call is, that communication is so important, and it's been so valued. And then if you can put something on paper as well, a lot of the times we'll be dealing with perhaps an institutional owner, and I could have a call with the main contact, but that report might get circulated to an entire division. It might get circulated to the VP. It might get circulated to the property manager. There's so many people that will see that report that I think you have to do those in tandem. You have to have something on paper where you can have a report where people are going to see it and they can keep it on file and they're going to remember it. But do the phone call as well. Phone call and a monthly report, or even a weekly report. I have some clients that want weekly reports. If you do those in tandem, and you're having honest, forthright conversations and communicating what's happening, you're buying yourself such goodwill, and you're probably buying yourself longer on the listing. Because if I go full circle on this, if the guy that I'm using to sell the car, if he came to me in 3 months, and I don't even know what contract we had on this, if there's an extension, but he came to me and said, we should renew it, And I'm thinking, I haven't even talked to you in 3 months and you haven't even brought a single buyer or anything.
Sure.
Am I going to go with that guy again? I don't know. But if he called all the time, he gave me reports, no brainer. If he's like, hey, here's everything that I'm doing. Can you give me another month or two to see if I can uncover some buyers? Of course I'm going to do it. So never underestimate the power of phone call and providing a written, well presented monthly or periodic report. Game changer for an agent.
Yeah, I love it. I said in the last vlog I shot, actually, we work so hard at what we do that the biggest mistake that we've ever made is not telling our clients what we're doing. Because if we don't, they assume we're doing nothing, which I actually don't blame them. Like, the only pain I felt in my career is relationships where I under communicated. I've never been fired for over communicating in my life, but I always take it as an opportunity to improve, right? There's one client I can think of specifically where we moved heaven and earth to make things happen on a transaction, packed their property with 70 people. We did a mastermind. We bring in people like you, people in our network. You couldn't even park in their driveway. And this is at a time when there wasn't any showings happening at high price point properties. We sold the property a week later because we created so much excitement around it. But there was one simple thing on closing date where there wasn't something communicated. I wasn't there physically in person. And I said to her, I appreciate the fact that you're willing to tell me this. And now we're going to dig in deeper and really build a better relationship. And we're going to bolt something onto our system so that that doesn't get missed again. And I think it's not a bad thing to address things in your business that can be a game changer, because now we're going to do more business together. My other clients are going to be even happier because they're going to be over communicated with. But I think you really have to look at what the clients want and then try and customize it to them. And I guess the follow-up question I had for that, you kind of addressed, but I'll dig in one more time. When you deal with certain people, like I heard billionaires don't even ever pick up the phone. It's only text. Institutional guys, like you said, they have a team for a reason. Their time is very valuable. And then you have the mom and pop guy that owns his own building that maybe wants a daily call. How do you assess how somebody wants to be communicated with? I think I'd love to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah, I think it would be a lot of just intuition. But as you say that, though, there's nothing wrong with asking the person. And that can be part of your proposal, is just say, I'll tailor my communication around what you want. So you tell me if you want to call weekly, then happy to do that. If you want a monthly update and you just want to buy a text message, that's fine too. I still would say call. Even if somebody is saying that they don't, like using the billionaire as an example, the billionaire is probably not making those decisions. The billionaire probably has somebody on his team that's overseeing those, and maybe he signs off on it. But I can't imagine really wealthy people being
No, the intricacies, right? Yeah.
yeah, I've got some very wealthy people in our market. They all would pick up their phone and talk deals because that's what they're doing. If it's just a billionaire that owned a one-off property, yeah, he probably isn't interested in doing it. But the billionaire that built his wealth on a real estate portfolio, he wants to talk to everybody because he's constantly looking for intel and looking for an edge. So I know what you're saying, and I think that is a great point. I think that you really do want to identify what their preference is, but I would still double down on the power of a phone call.
Do you use a lot of social media, like Instagram or any of those? I know you do the podcast, obviously, but are you doing tons on social media these days?
I do. Yeah, podcast is probably the main thing that I do, but I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Twitter. Very little on Instagram. But podcast and LinkedIn and Twitter would probably be the ones that spend more time on.
Yeah, LinkedIn would be huge for you for sure. I know the reason I ask you that is more to just give you something that I do that works very well. Instagram's a primary for me because a lot of my guys, builders, developers, they're on Instagram. I actually DM them on that platform and I communicate with them there, because quite often now Instagram looks at us and is like, oh, they like each other. They actually respond to each other's messages and we show up in each other's feeds more often. So it keeps us more top of mind. But we actually have a special guest, Mr. Roger Horvath, the flying realtor, just popped in. Roger's actually the reason you're on the show. He sent me your profile originally. He's a retail commercial expert at Prime. I know he is flying the air ambulance today. But Roger, meet Chad Griffin. I'd love to connect you two and have you ask him some questions.
Absolutely. Can you hear me now, guys? Sorry, it's a bit loud.
Hey, Roger.
Hey, Chad. How are you? I really enjoy your podcast, and I love that you're putting the closed doors of commercial real estate out into the world to to actually find some fans. I think that you'll find that there's a lot of investors that would love to get into industrial, and I think your content is just amazing. So kudos to you for that.
Well, I greatly appreciate that, and thanks for introducing me to Justin as well. It's also very much appreciated.
Absolutely, it was a no-brainer that you guys get together, because the content you both put out is truly amazing. So I apologize, I missed some of the content earlier, but I had a question on the market and where you think industrial condos are going in Canada.
Yeah, I love this topic as well, and I think condos are a very underappreciated element of the industry. And what a lot of people might not even know is that you have the ability to take a building and condominiumize it, essentially very similar to the residential market. And I'm actively working on a project like this right now, actually, where it's a 27,000 square foot building and we condominiumized it and we're selling them off kind of like 2,500 square foot bays. I think that there's a huge market for it, especially in existing buildings, because the cost of construction right now, and the reason why we haven't seen a whole lot of new inventory hit the market, almost everything that's been built on the industrial side has been large big box warehouses. So 200, 300,000 square foot buildings designed for a single tenant or perhaps a few tenants. There's been very little actually built on the smaller side, because you have to add firewalls, you have to add new unit heaters, you have to add new overhead doors, washrooms for each bay. It's just so much more expensive to build per square foot on a smaller individual bays versus a 200,000 square foot building. So there's been very little inventory actually added. And if you go into almost any market right now in North America and you want to find a 3,000 square foot industrial condo, you're going to have a few options to choose from total. Whereas if you're going to a market right now and you want a 200,000 square foot warehouse, you've probably got a lot of options, at least in some markets. So that condo market has just been underserviced, undersupplied, huge amount of demand for it. As population grows, you start needing more of everything. You need the new HVAC companies, you need new electricians, you need new flooring companies. All these small companies that service the public, they are growing, and there's more and more of them every day, yet that inventory has been relatively fixed. So I love it. The first property I ever bought, actually myself, I bought a property, first one in 2014, was a small industrial condo. I bought a 2,000 square foot condo that was leased to a company that serviced a kitchen equipment. I still own that bay. 10 years later, I still actually own that bay. So I'm a big fan of industrial condos. Long story short, I'm a big fan of it.
No, I love it. That's a great market cap. I think there's definitely room to grow. Would you say that it's more in the buy and purchase, or for leasing? Do you think there's a market for leasing a smaller condo, industrial condo? What are your thoughts on that?
It's very similar. There hasn't been a lot of inventory added either for people to purchase or to lease. And right now I've got a pretty big portfolio of properties that we have listed, and I don't have a single bay under 5,000 square feet, not a single one available for lease. So there's options available, a few of them, but it's still very difficult finding a good property at a good price right now. So if it's a company looking to get into space, I'm a big proponent that there isn't necessarily a reason to purchase over leasing, nor is there a reason to lease over purchasing. I think companies need to make the best decision that they can for themselves at that individual time. And that it varies. Sometimes it might make sense to lease. Sometimes it might make sense to purchase. If a company has a lot of money sitting on the sidelines right now and they want to enjoy the benefits of owning their own property, it can be a good time. But one thing I've said to people as a lot as well is that some companies say that they only want to purchase. They're tired of giving their landlord money and paying their landlord's mortgage and all the sayings that we're familiar with. We hear that all the time, and there's some merit to that. I'm not arguing one way or the other, but all too often the company that says that they only want to purchase, they might be overlooking a property that would actually make better sense for their business that's only available for lease. So that's where I go back to the point is make the best decision for your business. Sometimes that might make sense to actually lease. If there's only one property available to purchase, but there's 20 available for lease, and one of them would be closer to your customers and it'd work better for your staff to get to, and it's closer to public transit and it's more affordable, deciding to only purchase is short-sighted in my mind. So I think that there's opportunities for investors if they wanted to buy property and then lease it out, or if they want to buy a property and they want to resell it. And for tenants or companies that want to purchase, I think there's opportunities there as well. But I'd say it really depends on understanding where they're at that particular time and getting a better sense of what their end goal is, and then what's available at that given time as well.
Thanks a lot, Chad. That's great insight. I'm going to pass it back to Justin. I'm going to take off, and appreciate you coming on.
Oh, Roger,
are you literally taking off?
I might be. If the phone rings, we're going to run out here and start this thing up. So
I don't know if this is legal, but actually Chad and I were talking. So Taylor Hack and Chad are buddies. They were actually just together recently. And Chad was in my Bronco for an episode of Estates, Entrepreneurs, and Expressos, where we typically go in a vehicle and tour properties. See if Roger can get us in a helicopter one day and do an episode with Chad flying around looking at some commercial real estate. I think that would be awesome.
I love it. I love it.
That'd
Let's set it
so
up, guys.
cool. I'd love it.
Thanks again, guys.
Unreal. Have a great day, Roger. Take care.
Hey, Roger.
Yeah, he's an absolute beauty. And I love that. I think the world we live in today is amazing that we can be connected from a global perspective. Feels like you're a brother from another mother already. I wish we had hours to dig in because I have so many more questions. Everybody listening, please go check out his podcast if you're interested in commercial real estate at all. I would definitely encourage you to check out what Chad is doing. I guess I'll leave you with one last final question. You're in the podcast space, so you've probably heard this before, but if you had a giant billboard that you can put out there for the entire world to see, or a brand new commercial real estate agent getting into the industry, what would that billboard say?
I love it. That's a great question. I think I would want it to be short and succinct. Respect. I'm a marketer at heart too, so you can't have a whole bunch of text on there. It's got to be like a thumbnail. I think it just something to the effect of everything about industrial real estate, and that's what I really try to do on my podcast. Is anything and everything to do with industrial real estate. I try to bring on guests that can speak to that, and it can be people that I disagree with. It could be people that I don't know anything about. I just really am on a mission to cover everything that I can for people that are interested in the industry and want to learn more about it. That's what my mission is. So that's, as I try to formulate that in my head, everything industrial real estate is.
So I'm actually learning a ton from the people in my ecosystem about client communication. How about that podcast? If you haven't listened to the Prime People podcast before, I've been doing it since about 2015, and I just interview people that I'm interested in talking to. It's a lot of conversations I would have behind the scenes, and I like asking them how they do things in their world with their clients. And Chad Griffiths, the industrial expert from Edmonton, just gave an MBA level education on working with high value commercial clients and top level communication and team communication. So if you want to listen to that entire Prime People episode, make sure you go to all the audio podcasting platforms, Apple, Spotify. It's on my YouTube channel as well. And check out the Chad Griffiths podcast. Maybe just subscribe to the podcast, because that episode is going to be coming out in about 2 weeks from when we drop this episode. I think what Chad said about picking up the phone is absolutely accurate. A lot of people hide behind social media, email. They don't have anything to say, so they don't say anything at all. And I'm going to take a page from his book, be on the phone even more than I am now. So I appreciate you, Chad. Now I'm just heading to a client meeting. We have a pretty cool builder client that I'm meeting. Not your conventional builder type. You know, they're not buying lots and building single family homes. This is completely out of the box, but maybe developing a new partnership that I'm really excited about. So let's go to Bayfield for that meeting.
TMI territory. I also make sure any content aligns with my brand values and the tone of my posts meshes with my brand personality. That means posting pictures of myself sweaty and in my gym clothes is a yes for me, because health and fitness is important to me and something I talk about a lot. Anything exercise related fits in well with my personal brand. So I'm okay with posting videos at the gym with my hair all crazy under my headband because I'm working out.
This episode of the vlog is sponsored by Celsius. Just kidding. It's not. But maybe one day. Shout out George Janko, who got me to drink this stuff to begin with. I was going to say this vlog is still about communication with clients, but I'm going to do something and show you a little bit behind the scenes on something I'm shooting for the Sell It Like Sirhan group. They asked me to shoot it, but how it relates to clients. So when I communicate with clients, obviously there's one-to-one communication, but another way that I communicate with clients is through my content. So I'm actually gonna tell the story about how I sold a property for over 200 grand over asking price. There was a massive fire. I consulted on it for 3 years. You're gonna hear the entire story right now. And then the Sell It Like Sirhan group is gonna actually put it out as a collaboration reel for me because been part of their community. We've been in collaboration with them since 2018. But how this relates to communicating with clients is indirectly. I think so many people get caught up thinking you have to talk to clients face to face all the time. A lot of times the way I communicate with clients is through my content. I'm telling stories. I'm trying to find the people that appreciate the way that we sell real estate, and through my content, I am actually communicating with my clients. So let me know what you think about this style of the BTS in the vlog. If you agree that you should be communicating with people through your content as much as one-to-one. The extent of looking at the history of the property, how things were done in the past, and even took down things that have been updated over the years improperly to make it original. It was a painstaking process that the current owner is going to get to benefit from, and this all came to fruition when we brought it to market. Now the fire itself, there was extensive documentation on what they think may have happened. Suffice it to say, on the third floor balcony is where they think it started. As you can see from the imagery, it was extensive. But the good thing was, it's in a very notable area of London, and very quickly the fire department was notified. They got there and they suppressed the fire, limiting most of the damage to the third floor. The first and second floor looked fantastic when I went in there, and I was actually shocked that there was such an extensive fire that was in there. Now, once I started walking through, the life had changed. So we thought of, who's the avatar of who's going to buy this house? And it's one of three people. Somebody like him who's going to have a business in downtown London that wants a trophy property and a piece of history and also lifestyle and convenience. A builder that maybe has a client that wants to do infill in the area, or potentially an investor who wants to do the renovation and put a strategy. We factored all three of these things in. We looked at what are the land values for the area, what would it cost to bring this up to, what would this cost to bring it up to a marketable product, and then how were we going to roll that out? We said, well, this property could easily sell, call it $600,000 to $900,000, maybe $1 million plus, depending on the right person. And we really dug deep. Into making sure that we had pinpoint pricing of what was the lowest price we thought somebody would pay for the property, and then set realistic expectations on what the upper tier price would be. So we listed the property at $599,000. When you look at the imagery, it looks like one of the best priced properties on the planet. Many people would accuse me and many people would say we just underpriced it to get multiples. And many people would say we underpriced it, but to be honest with you, we could have listed it at $599, $699, or $799, but we worked through what all three of those things could have resulted in. And had we listed it at, say, $799 or even $899, we may only have had one person interested in the property, knowing their offers probably put it on social media. I shoot my video, I put it on YouTube, I put it on Facebook, I send it to my mailing list, I run ads against it. We generate 5 to 10 times the amount of interest through our marketing than when it just sits on MLS by itself. So we did all those things, all those videos, everything I did on the property. You can go to my Instagram profile, you can see how I marketed it, you can see the reels, you can see the long form on my YouTube channel. The London Free Press even decided to write an article on this property because of the marketing that we did, and you can see that all here. What that resulted in was 84 showings, 6 offers, and over $250,000 above asking price. The question you have to ask yourself is good branding, marketing, and pricing strategy going to result in the same thing Is good pricing, branding, and marketing strategy going to yield the same results as if I took a couple photos with my iPhone and just put it on MLS? I would argue not. The last piece of the puzzle is the negotiation piece. When we deal with multiple offers and we know we're going to have this much interest in a property, having a transparent offer process is incredibly important. The public hates us because we're not a very transparent industry. The way we like to do our multiple offers is set the ground rules from the very beginning. We told everybody we were going to take offers on a certain date. We told them exactly how we were going to notify everybody of how many offers we had, how long they had to revise. Then when we compared the offers and we had a couple of, then there was a window of time to go through the details of the offer with the sellers and the agents that submitted them to get to the final finish line. Yes, it was an insane process. Yes, managing 84 showings and offers and clients and agents is an absolute whirlwind. But I'll be honest with you, there was only one speed bump that I had to deal with, and it's because one agent stayed at the property with her buyers longer than she should have, and the other people were waiting outside. And I got a phone call, and I dealt with it right away. The reason everything went incredibly smoothly was we took time to prepare ourselves at the beginning. Too many agents are falling forward. Too many agents don't have a plan. It's incredibly important. In this Canadian real estate market update, I'm going to give you a perspective of what's happening from a national level. I'm going to give you a perspective of what's happening in some test markets and local levels, and some strategies that may help you in a buyer's market, whether you're a buyer, seller, or investor. Actual, not seasonally adjusted national average sales price posted a 1.6% year-over-year decrease in June. I just lost my screen. In June 2024, there was 180,000 properties listed for sale on all the MLS systems, up 26% from a year earlier, but still below historical average of around 200,000 for the first time of the year. On a seasonally adjusted basis, the end of June supply number was only 0.5% from the end of May, suggesting the national inventory buildup may be slowing down. As the national increase in new listings was smaller than the sales gained in June, the national sales well, that went better than I thought it was going to. You got a little bit of a market update from our territory. If you want the whole thing, you got to go to Prime Real Estate Brokerage's YouTube channel. But let me know what you like about the vlog. I want some more feedback. I want to get Nico more involved too, because he's an incredible creative and editor. But he's really busy running Prime Media Productions right now too. So we've kind of flown under the radar for a long time. We're doing a ton of corporate work. If you're interested in media, we also do media work. And Nico is one of the best creative directors I've ever met, and has an aptitude for bringing stories to life. I can give you marketing and sales strategy, because that's literally all I do, so it's one of the best of both worlds.
We are ending the day and the vlog in Grand Bend, Ontario. It is a balmy 20 degrees Celsius. It's actually fairly busy. And Grand Bend has changed over the years. Last vlog, we talked about London, Ontario a little bit. If anybody here watching knows Grand Bend, jump in the comments and let me know. Shout out to my boy Jazz Tackar from the REC team, whose team was actually featured in this vlog. I know you were here last weekend. I was gone. I was actually in Ohio. Oh, there's an old school Bronco. Anyways, well, I guess I should put an end cap on the vlog. Not really sure how to end these things, but I hope you got some value having a conversation around how to communicate with clients. What was your biggest takeaway? Mine was over-communication is actually key. I took the advice of my now good friend Chad Griffith, who was on the podcast, in over-communicating with clients, and I actually had a phenomenal conversation with one of my favorite people today. And sometimes we can get in our heads, right? We can think they're too busy to take a phone call, but just picking up and reconnecting, having a touch point, shows that we're on the same page and we are definitely in alignment. So hopefully you got some value from that. Let me know how you're going to implement it in your business. Fun fact, we have a new drop of the Prime hats coming. I did a new order today. If you would like a Prime hat because you're part of the Prime Nation, also let me know in the comments. I'm kind of building this channel for the people. So the more feedback you give me on these vlogs, what you like, what you don't like, the more I will switch it up for you. Oh, one more thing. Hopefully you see this in time. But as one more bonus, I am doing a private mastermind 1 hour call with, I think there's 60 registrants, right? I
think there's 60 registrants right now. Oh, one more thing. So I'm actually giving an hour of my time to talk about time management. There's about 60 people registered right now. I'm probably going to cap it at like 70, so there's about 10 spots left. If you'd like to be invited to that event, it'll be a one-on-one Zoom call. I'll be digging into how I manage my crazy schedule, show you the back end, some of the project management softwares I use. I'll have some of my leadership team on that call. Let me know and I will send you the link for that event. It's coming up on August 20th. Should be a fun one. For now, we're signing off, and you can cruise the Strip in Grand Bend with me. Have a great day.
I've been doing ain't got no reason or rhyme, and I can hardly wait for it to finally be quitting time. And I've been pushing steel through a rundown Rust Belt plant, and I can't wait to head on home so I can take my gal to dance. How I'll take my gal to dance. Oh, I'll take my gal to dance. The desert shore is hot and we've been working through the days. I pray I get back to my loving lady's gaze. Rifle in my hand and some brothers to my side. I can't hardly wait for it to finally be quitting time. Oh, I pray it'll be quitting time. Oh, one day it'll be quitting time. Quitting time's on my mind, when the condoms are on my heart. I've been sweating for my wages, but she'll cool me after dark. How she'll cool me after dark. I know she'll cool me after dark. And I've been roofing houses atop the homes I can't afford. But I'm saving all my pennies and I'm praying to the Lord. One day we'll make it through all this, barely getting by. I'm taking out my woman and we're dancing barefoot tonight. Quitting time's on my mind. 4, 3, 2.
Play Heading South by Zach Bryan.
Heading South by Zach Bryan, now playing on Apple Music.
Was a boy who was a dreamer, and he flew so high and proud. In a world full of people, I cut his young ass down. No one ever understood a single word he said, and it cast him to the wolves when he wasn't well and fed.
Yeah, you're good.
Boys, we've got a riser in our midst. He will get the last lap, it's the last thing he did. And he used to roll around in that red dirt mud, but now he's skipping town and that riser's out for blood. Don't stop going south, 'cause they'll let you play your music real damn loud. Don't stop heading south, 'cause they won't understand the words that are pouring from your mouth. Then that boy, he called his daddy to tell him what he did. As the master screamed the lyrics of a messed up kid. And then he told that old man he was never